And also, the president joined CNBC just moments ago and continued to say that the jobs numbers were rigged and that he will be hiring an excellent replacement that from the president just moments ago. Joining us now, former labor secretary under President Clinton, Robert Reich. She's out today with a new book entitled Coming Up Short, a memoir of my America. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But first of all, your reaction to what the president just said, and also getting a sense of how people are feeling about the economy amidst this controversy of the firing of the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Well, Mika, I was labor secretary, and one of my responsibilities as labor secretary was to guard the Bureau of Labor Statistics from any political, involvement. I mean, it had to be for its own integrity, like a Fort Knox. And I did that, and labor secretaries after me did that because it was so important to the integrity of this information. The entire economy and all of the people who follow the economy want to know whether jobs and wages are going in this direction or that direction. And if you fire the messenger, if you don't like the messenger and just continue to say, well, the messenger's wrong, it's rigged, on the basis of nothing, without any information, then you are undermining all of that credibility that's been built up over the years.
So the editors of the National Review are writing about this in a piece entitled Trump is Shooting the Messenger, and it reads in part, quote, the issues with jobs reporting are not about politics or Erica McIntyre's competence. In fact, they're exactly the kind of thing that an administration is committed to. Technological modernization and government efficiency should find to be in its wheelhouse. And there's no reason to think this particular jobs report was any more flawed than any other. McIntyre was not standing in the way of this modernization. Trump was mad about the jobs report, so he fired her. No one should have to take these tantrums seriously, but firing the BLS commissioner is serious. The integrity of the United States statistics is important, not just for the government, but for the private sector as well. And these reports are relied upon around the world, not just in the U.S. The goal should be to get them right, not make them more favorable to the president. Trump is shooting the messenger of bad economic news, not unlike when China discontinues inconvenient data series that make the Communist Party look bad. I guess two questions. What do you make of where this country is headed, given this move and the parallel made there to China? And also, where do people get real information? I mean, they're dependent on it as well.
Well, this is the authoritarian playbook, Mika. This is what dictators do when they don't like the data, when they don't like what they hear. They not only they shoot the messenger, they get rid of the messenger, all similar messengers, and by doing that, they signal that they only want certain kinds of information and certain kinds of outcomes, and that's what undermines credibility across the board and internationally.
Mr. Secretary, we're going to be joined by Andrew Ross Sorkin right now, actually co-anchor of CNBC's Squawk Box, New York Times columnist. He's joining us live from Colorado, where he's covering the Aspen Economic Strategy Group Forum. Andrew, you just, CNBC, you had an interview with President Trump moments ago. Give us a sense as to what he had to say, particularly in his defense of this firing on Friday, and how he is talking up the tariffs that he is assigned.
Well, look, he said, as you might imagine, he's convinced that the jobs numbers have been rigged. He said it again, repeated it multiple times. Does not have specific evidence for the rigging, just suggesting over and over that these revisions were politically motivated. We quizzed him and pushed back, I think, multiple times, and he did not specify a specific, evidence-based reason for his belief, but he continued to say that it was rigged. We also talked about tariffs. And we also talked specifically about tariffs and all of these big payments and investments that he says are going to be made by countries from overseas. And interestingly, he said nobody knows the details of those deals. We asked whether there's teeth in those deals. You know, what would happen, for example, if countries don't ultimately pay these big investments to the United States? He seemed to suggest that maybe then he would push back on them with higher tariffs in the future. One of the reasons I even asked that question is, you know, there was an issue years ago when he had pushed China to make investments in the U.S. There was big headlines about some of those numbers, and ultimately China did not make good on those investments. Of course, therefore, the question becomes, what kind of teeth really exist in those deals? The other piece is, I'm not sure, in truth, when I talk to folks in some of these other countries, that they know what these investment deals really encompass and entail.
Yeah, there's been a real lack of specifics for most of this. And Andrew, to your point, still, he's not provided any evidence that these statistics were bogus last week, which he's used as justification for this firing. He also told you that he's narrowed down the field of potential future Federal Reserve chairs to 4 candidates. We know he's unhappy with Jerome Powell. That list, that short list, does not include the current Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent.
I love Scott, but he wants to stay where he is. I'll take him off because I asked him just last night, is this something you want? Nope, I want to stay where I am. He actually said, I want to work with you. It's such an honor. I said, that's very nice. I appreciate that. But no, Scott wants to do what he's doing. He's doing a great job, and he wants to do what he's doing. So I just take him off. He does not want it. He likes being Treasury Secretary. He's doing a really good job. We made the greatest trade deals in the history of our country. We had to because we were being ripped off by the world. It's not like we had a choice. If we would have gotten these trade deals, if you would have had a normal president that would have just continued to allow every country in the world to rip you off, we would not have a country anymore. Your show would be off the air. There'd be nothing to look at. It would be a disaster.
All right, Andrew, what do we make there of the president's short list?
Well, I think it's really just the two Kevins, Kevin Hassett and Kevin Warsh. Kevin Hassett, of course, has been with this president for quite some time. He has passed the loyalty test, if you will. Kevin Warsh has not worked with this president yet. He's made some vociferous arguments around lowering interest rates recently. Longtime Republican, longtime respected individual when it comes to Wall Street. And so I think it's really going to be a question of which Kevin ultimately gets the nod. And I imagine we're going to find out probably in the next couple of months. But as we've discussed on this air before, there's an idea that really the shadow Fed chair already exists. We may not know their name. We may not know which Kevin it is, if you will. But the market is already starting to look through where things are today with Jay Powell and say to themselves, the world is going to change come May of 2026. There will be a new person in that role who's going to be pushing for lower interest rates.
CNBC's Andrew Ross Sorkin, live for us from Aspen. Andrew, thank you. Great work as always. Mr. Secretary, let's get your reaction to what we heard there from the president about the Fed chair, and we certainly that his pressure campaign against Jerome Powell, but also on the tariffs. Give us your assessment here as we try to piece together just what sort of economy do we have right now?
Well, it's not clear what kind of economy we have in terms of who is actually making the decisions other than Donald Trump. I mean, can you imagine? This is not just the United States, Jonathan. This is the world. And one person, on the basis of the deals that person is making and his own whims, without any explanation to anybody else, is making decisions that affect the entire world. What kind of a political system is this? Does this sound like and look like a dictatorship to you? It certainly does to me. In terms of the Fed, well, the problem is exactly the same as the undermining of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, because if you put somebody in the Fed who everybody else out there thinks is going to play favorites and going to do exactly what you as president want, rather than actually control inflation, then what kind of credibility do you have as a inflation controller? You don't have any.
Yeah, we certainly may not know what sort of economy we have right now, but we know whose economy it is. It is Donald Trump. It is President Trump's economy, no longer one he inherited from his predecessor, Joe Biden. Mr. Secretary.